So I want to take it more into love and relationships and sex, just because this is a huge topic that you go on. I'm going to relate it to a personal story for myself. So I'm back in Montreal and I haven't been back in a while, but I recently saw an ex that I haven't seen in about 7, 8 years. She's in a long-term relationship. This isn't anything like that. But do you think exes can be friends?
Well, you can't in the first 6 months. You got it's like trying to chip on your drug of choice, right? You can't do that. That's not a reasonable thing to do. And men typically have more trouble for reasons that are not exactly obvious to me, being motivated to and being flexible enough to maintain friendships. Though they can, but they don't. They tend not to be motivated to do it. Women are often motivated to do it. They're like, hey, there's a reason I was in a relationship with this person. I like this person. Why do I want to lose them as a friend? And men, we kind of want to go back into our cave. It's a very weird impulse we have. But yeah, of course you can be. But you gotta watch your boundaries, right? Because it's easy for those boundaries to spill if you're not careful, which is why whoever you're involved with now may have an issue with this, right? Appreciate that person for what it was that you liked about them.
Why is it that men have a more difficult time? Is it because we're more physical?
We are more physical, but when you ask, why, when it comes to motivational systems, it doesn't always bear fruit to think logically, because motivational systems are not logical. They're just there. And our motivational systems are not as geared towards sustaining the friendship, and I would argue that we can pass judgment on it, and we can say the female motivational system is clearly superior. So why don't we want to be friendly with somebody that we're very close to? But we sort of recoil from it. We're not motivated for it. It probably, okay, if I were going to put on my evolutionary psychology hat, probably it was more to our advantage to get the hell out of there and get our genetic material somewhere else and not spend time worrying about this that we know are no longer sharing our genetic.
Interesting. I don't know if you saw the film Explained, like a series on Netflix where they were talking about how humans I think they were more treated as like chimpanzees and apes as our closest species, but it was more like bonobos, which are very polygamous animals.
One base pair can change that. You know what I mean? So those are cherry picking. That's very spurious to go, oh, we're close to the bonobo because we share, everything but 200 base pairs instead of everything but 300 base pairs when it comes to the chimpanzees. The right base pair changes that whole social structure. Sure. We clearly are not like the bonobos. We clearly are closer to the chimpanzees. We clearly are.
The logic with
look, it's to try to make those giant. We had a common ancestor. We are not related to them. We had a common ancestor, and we differ by the chimpanzee by about 300 base pairs. You differ from a woman by an entire chromosome. Okay, millions of base pairs. So these comparisons start to break down if you get too literal with them.
Yeah, well, the point that we were making was, religion, all that stuff was man-made, and that because the bonobos, which may be true or not, the idea was that human beings were also meant to be more polygamous. But it seems like with men becoming the more physical characters, that they're the ones that maybe are more polygamous versus women.
Well, of course, that's true because the women has to invest so much more into the reproductive process, right? Their life is, 20% of women died in childbirth, right? That's through history, maybe more like 50%. So they are the investment is much more serious to them. Here's one thing about bonobos that I will tell you makes us different than bonobos. Bonobos do not get sexually transmitted diseases. Throughout human history, sexually transmitted diseases killed you. Whether you got chlamydia or gonorrhea and pelvic inflammatory disease or syphilis or later in history, HIV. Humans develop disease from sexual contact. So at least some, if not all, of our sexual mores are built on that fact. If you're raising a teenager, it's 1100 AD, you're raising a teenager and you know what those impulses are, and if he or she caves into it, they could die of pregnancy, die of syphilis. You're going to say, hey, don't do that, that's bad. That's where that comes from.
And do you think the fear of getting a transmitted disease overcomes the impulse of us wanting to reproduce with multiple
Oh,
partners?
but no, but it causes us to have parenting and religious systems that bear down on us from a young age to try to shape that motivation.